Over the years, my desk setup has gotten increasingly more expensive and crazy to the point where I think it deserves its own YouTube video with a ludicrous title like this one. In this video, I want to go over why my desk setup is 15 grand plus or minus some change and how I actually put it all to good use. Alright, so first up, let's talk about the desk in question here, the core component of any desk setup. This is the FlexiSpot E7 Pro. I'll put the price up in the corner here, and I'll sum up how much everything is costing throughout the video over here. But anyway, I love this desk. I've actually had it for about 2 years. They were kind enough to send it over. And yeah, I have a bamboo variant here. It's really high quality, one of the nicest desks you can get out there. It's also super sturdy too, can hold a lot of weight, has minimal wobble, and has a really wonderful mechanism for standing, of course, here. And yeah, I just, again, adore this desk, have used it for quite a long time. I also am a really big fan of the desk size. This is 55 by 28, so I have a lot of room to stretch out my arms and just sort of rest my, wrist and forearm on my desk while I'm doing work, so I don't feel like I'm sort of cramped and kind of falling off the edge here. But anyway, getting back to the standing aspect, the toggle here for it is really high quality, super smooth once again, looks minimal. They also have a USB-A port built into it for charging. Something else that I like too is that the system cables that go to this and just to the desk in general are all tucked away neatly into the design, which I really appreciate here. They also happen to sell a lot of organization accessories for your desk, so check those out as well. But anyway, I absolutely love this desk. I've been using it for a little over 2 years, and yeah, I trust it to house or hold all of my expensive Apple tech. I'll leave links in the video description if you're interested in checking it out. Also check out FlexiSpot's store for really great sales going on right now. And if you use my coupon code, you can get an additional $50 off of an E7 Plus variant. But anyway, next up, let's talk about the machine that powers this entire ensemble. This is my MacBook Pro. It is a 16-inch 2023 model, maxed out with the exception of the storage, 4 terabytes instead of 8, but I'm not complaining. It is one of the best devices on the market, one of my favorite pieces of tech out there. And even though it's not the brand new M3 Max model, it still handles my 4K workflow and occasional 8K workflow like a charm. It is a wonderful machine and it powers my entire business. And yeah, it's definitely pricey, but completely worth it for what I do. And speaking of pricey, next up, my display is definitely up there in terms of cost. This is the Pro Display XDR. It's about 4 years old at this point, but don't let its age fool you. It is one of the best monitors on the market right now and probably will be even when Apple comes out with a successor. This thing is a 6K 32-inch mini LED panel that gets super, super bright, especially if you use the, I think it's called the Vivid plugin that sort of tricks the display into outputting 1,000 nits. There is nothing quite like this in terms of design, resolution, and brightness, and I absolutely adore it, just like my MacBook Pro. It is a pricey piece of tech, but honestly, you really cannot get better right now. And in terms of size, 32 inches is really ideal for creative applications, Photoshop, Final Cut, whatever else you're doing. And also too, you're not compromising on brightness or the resolution, which is 6K, and it runs beautifully. Although I will say in the future, I'm definitely looking forward to possibly even higher resolution and higher refresh rate with Thunderbolt 5 and the M4, M5 Mac craziness. And yeah, I know the stand is $1,000, but it is super functional and sexy, just like the rest of the industrial design here with the cheese grater vents on the back. And even though this thing is super thick, it has this wonderful sort of retro Apple style to it, which is definitely my thing. Although it has really trim bezels, trimmer than the ones that you get on the studio display. But anyway, next up though, let's talk about my keyboard of choice, and surprise, surprise, it's from the Fruit Company as well. This is Apple's Pro keyboard in black with the numpad. I just enjoy Apple keyboards. I've used mechanical ones before, but the travel is really nice on here, and also too, it has Touch ID, which is super convenient for signing in with passwords and such. I also have the numpad, so I can just input different adjustments in my creative apps like Lightroom, Photoshop, and Final Cut. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, just tried and true, wireless, charges up pretty quickly, lasts pretty long, and it works really well with all of Apple's products, as you can imagine. And if somebody has a Magic Keyboard, they're also probably using a Magic Trackpad. Of course, I am, and I have one here underneath my keyboard in a sort of MacBook style layout, and that helps because I can use it with both hands, and I use it to, scrub through the OS and, you know, Final Cut and other creative apps here. It just gives me that MacBook feel that I love and a little more fine-tuned, you know, gesture control, I guess, that a mouse cannot give you. And that brings me to the mouse. I've been using this for a while. It's another surprising choice, the MX Master 3. I know the 3S is out, but I've had this for a minute. It's about $100. And I love it, specifically for its ergonomics and this side scroll wheel that I can't really show you with this hand, but the B-roll wheel. But yeah, it's a wonderful ergonomic mouse. It can also hook up to multiple different Bluetooth devices all at once. As you can see, this little switch on the back. But yeah, this is my ideal combo. I've been using it for about 2 years now, and I don't think I'll be changing this up anytime soon unless Apple comes out with a crazy new keyboard or they, you know, sort of outsource the Touch ID button without it being a whole DIY project, but that's another video, I guess. Next up though, and as promised, we have my mouse mat. It is like 12 by 28 roughly from a weird generic brand called Reniteco. That's probably not even how you say it, but I have it here. It fits perfectly in between my laptop and my Vision Pro thing, which I'll talk about, of course. And yeah, it's a clean alternative to having like just a standalone mouse pad for your mouse. I think that's kind of gross looking, to be honest. And like I can just run my mouse here, like this entire sort of L length here, or I can move my keyboard over and have even more space. So yeah, I enjoy the way it looks. I also enjoy the way it feels. It's nice to kind of rest my wrists on this opposed to just the wood. So yeah, it's functional and it also looks great too. And it's very cheap. And of course, I'll leave links to everything in the video description. But anyway, moving on to audio, my speakers or studio drivers of choice are the Audio Engine A2 Pluses or A2 Plus, however you say that. They're Bluetooth enabled, but I have them hooked up via USB to my Pro display here so I can have video and audio over one cable, which is nice. But yeah, I absolutely love these. They look great and they also sound super great. I'm no audiophile, but these were highly rated on Amazon, and yeah, they really shake the house when you're bumping that, if you know what I mean. So I had a lot of fun using these to listen to music, but also to do my work here without putting headphones in. And speaking of headphones, mine of choice, which I've had for so many years, are the Audio-Technica M50X BTs. So these are also Bluetooth enabled, but I just use them via the standard 3.5mm audio jack, if that'll even focus. But yeah, these are Bluetooth as well, but I use these simply because they give me the most accurate representation of what my videos actually sound like. However, if I want to, you know, more conveniently, you know, listen to stuff, I can use, you know, AirPod Maxes or AirPods, but these are tried and true and industry standard, and I use these, again, mostly wired, but occasionally Bluetooth if I feel like it. Next up though, let's talk about a more stylistic aspect of my setup, and that is ambient lighting. And as you can see here, it looks a little bit dimmer because I have it turned off. I have the entire setup turned off actually, so I can turn it on with my HomeKit app. I have everything hooked up to a HomeKit plug, and that also includes the lighting, which immediately turns on when I turn the creative setup on. I have this lighting turned on all day, all night, whatever, whenever I'm using this desk setup, because it just makes the situation look a lot more welcoming and warm. So I have a under lighting situation going on here with a LED bar from Ahsoka. I've been using this one for a few years now, and I really love it. I also use two of them in my living room with another setup, but that's another video for you to watch. I also have these lamps from One Wish with these sort of old style filament bulbs, and they're also adjustable with a little dial here. So I really enjoy these, and yeah, this sort of trifecta here just sort of brings this warmth to my setup that also matches some of the ambient lighting around my apartment as well. But yeah, without it, this whole setup just looks kind of depressing and dull, and again, it gets worse as the night goes on. So, you know, having this here just makes me want to sit and work for prolonged periods of time. Another interesting aspect of my setup is the SD card reader. This is from StarTech. It is discontinued, and I absolutely adore and love this thing because I shoot with multiple cameras. So after I'm done, you know, shooting with my A6700, which I'm using right now, my A1, my A7S, or FX30, whatever, I can just dump all of the footage onto my computer all at once here via USB-C 3.2 or 1 or whatever, high speed, and they all show up in Finder, which is wonderful. So yeah, I don't have to do one by one here, which I otherwise would have to do with my MacBook Pro's built-in one, or, you know, one of these that's just a single or a dual port. But anyway, next up though, we have the third big ticket item here beyond the display and the MacBook Pro, and that is the Vision Pro, which I've made a lot of content about, so definitely watch that if you haven't. But in this case, I enjoy using it as a virtual display for my Mac. So as much as I love the Pro display here and even the display on my MacBook Pro, sometimes you want to sort of immerse yourself into a, you know, sort of natural environment, or you want to scale the display even bigger, and that is what this can do. You know, there's no boundary, there's no limits with the really high-res displays in here, so you get like, you know, 2 4K displays for your eyeballs, and you can just really enjoy a giant display, higher quality than you can get with a projector or even a TV, I would say in some cases, and also sort of integrate that into AR, VR, you know, like Yosemite, Mount Hood, whatever, and it's a wonderful experience. And it's only gonna get better once Apple comes out with their ultra-wide virtual display support with visionOS 2 later in the fall. But yeah, when it's not docked in the sort of visionOS designated area that I've made for it, I have it right here, and I can just put this on my head and just delve into a really immersive Mac experience if I don't want to conventionally use my display or the built-in one in my MacBook Pro. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have one of my favorite little productivity tools, the iPad mini 6th Gen, which I use for annotation and sketching and note-taking with the Apple Pencil. But in this case, I'm using it as a small little productivity monitor with my setup here. Not in a conventional sense though you definitely can via macOS. I'm using this as a little monitor for my Spotify, which I can scroll through here as you can see, which is of course linked up to my speakers and my Mac and all that. I also use it as a Notion little module or monitor, so I can sort of keep track of the footage that I'm importing into Final Cut Pro. And in this case, I have the literal list for this video here that I was shooting today. And the best part is that I can use the same trackpad or mouse that I'm using with my Mac and scroll down here thanks to universal control. So I can literally be scrolling here and then seamlessly go back up here and continue editing. And then when I'm done, I can just turn this off and just go back to focusing on one monitor. But yeah, that about wraps things up here. I hope this video was helpful. Check out my links to FlexiSpot in the video description as well. I also have everything else linked down there too. Thanks for watching. As always, expect more content from me coming soon. Really excited about the fall coming up, you know, new products. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I mostly focus on Apple stuff if you can't already tell. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.